I stood in my brother Derek's living room during Thanksgiving dinner, staring at the shattered pieces of a PlayStation 5 scattered across the hardwood floor. My nephew Austin, 13 years old, had just smashed it because it wasn't the Pro model. The entire family sat frozen around the dining table. Austin's mother, my sister-in-law Linda, calmly sipped her coffee as if nothing had happened. Derek turned to face me, his expression cold and hard. He crossed his arms and said, "You have 5 minutes to apologize to my son. For 3 years, I had been paying his mortgage and funding his business." In that moment, something inside me finally snapped. The silence in the room felt suffocating. Everyone stared at me, waiting to see what I would do. My mind raced backward, trying to understand how we had arrived at this point. How had my generosity turned into this nightmare? 3 years ago, Derek lost his job. He had been working as a marketing director for a mid-sized firm in Denver when they went through massive corporate layoffs. Derek was 42 at the time, with a wife, a 10-year-old son, and a mortgage payment of $2,400 every month. When he called me that night, his voice shaking, I didn't hesitate. I had done well for myself in real estate development. At 36, I owned 3 rental properties and had just closed a major commercial deal. When Derek told me he couldn't make his mortgage payment, I set up an automatic transfer that same week, $2,400 every single month, straight from my account to his. "Just until I get back on my feet," Derek had said. "I'll pay you back, Sammy. I promise." I told him not to worry about it. Family takes care of family. That's what our parents had always taught us. 6 months later, Derek came to me with a business idea. He wanted to start a consulting firm, helping small businesses with their marketing strategies. It was solid, but he had no capital. He needed money for office space, software, initial operating costs. He asked for $60,000. I wrote the check and took 40% equity in the company. Not because I wanted to profit off my brother, but because I wanted him to have accountability, a real partnership, something that would motivate him to succeed. "I won't let you down," Derek promised, shaking my hand in his kitchen while Linda smiled in the background. The business grew. Within a year, Derek was bringing in decent income, not enough to be wealthy, but enough to live comfortably. Enough, I thought, to start paying back some of what I had invested. But Derek never mentioned repayment. Every time I saw him at family dinners, he talked about new clients, expansion plans, and future growth. Never about settling debts. I never pushed. I told myself he was still building, still establishing himself. The mortgage payments continued, automatic and unquestioned. $86,400 over 36 months. I had tracked every payment, though I never mentioned it. But while Derek's business grew, something else was growing too. Austin's entitlement. When Austin was 10, he was a relatively normal kid, a little spoiled maybe, but what kid isn't these days? But as he hit his teenage years, something shifted. Linda started calling it allowing him to express himself. I called it letting him become a monster. At family gatherings, Austin would interrupt adult conversations without consequence. He would demand specific meals, refuse to help clean up, and throw fits if he didn't get his way. Linda would smile indulgently and say things like, "He's developing his independence," or "We don't believe in forcing children to conform to arbitrary social rules." Derek backed her completely. When my mother gently suggested that maybe Austin should say please and thank you, Derek bristled. "We're raising him to have self-respect, Mom, not to perform politeness for others' comfort." I bit my tongue. It wasn't my kid, wasn't my place to interfere. But I noticed. I noticed how Austin never helped carry dishes to the kitchen. I noticed how he would sit at the table on his phone while everyone else cleaned up after meals. I noticed how he spoke to his grandmother with casual disrespect, and no one corrected him. 2 months ago, I bought Austin a PlayStation 5 for his 13th birthday. The console alone cost $500. I wrapped it carefully, wrote a heartfelt card about how proud I was watching him grow up, and presented it to him at his birthday party. Austin ripped open the wrapping paper, glanced at the box, and said, "Cool, that was it. No thank you. No hug." He grabbed the box, and disappeared into his room. Linda called after him. "What do we say, honey?" Austin's muffled voice came from upstairs. "Thanks, I guess." Linda turned to me and shrugged. "Teenagers, right?" I smiled tightly and said nothing, but something hardened inside me that day. Now, standing in Derek's living room with PlayStation pieces scattered across the floor, I understood what that hardness had been. It was my self-respect, finally calcifying, after years of being dissolved by misplaced loyalty. Derek tapped his phone screen. "I'm setting a timer. 5 minutes, Sammy. Apologize for embarrassing my son with the wrong gift, or leave my house." I looked at the timer counting down. 4 minutes and 38 seconds. 4 minutes and 37. 4 minutes and 36. "You want me to apologize?" I asked quietly. Derek nodded, his arms still crossed. Austin sat on the couch behind him, already back on his phone, completely unbothered by the destruction he had caused. Linda set down her coffee cup and looked at me with an expression I can only describe as patient expectation, like a teacher waiting for a slow student to understand a simple concept. "Sammy," she said in that sweet, condescending voice she used when explaining things to people she considered less enlightened, "you know Austin had his heart set on the Pro model. You hurt his feelings by getting him the regular version." I stared at her. "Did anyone think to tell me he wanted the Pro specifically?" Linda shrugged delicately. "You should have asked. You know how particular Austin is about things." My younger sister Monica, 28 and sitting at the far end of the table, finally spoke up. Her voice was quiet, tentative. "Maybe Austin should apologize for breaking it?" Derek's head snapped toward her. "Stay out of this, Monica. This is between me and Sammy." Monica shrank back in her chair, her cheeks flushing. I saw the hurt in her eyes and felt a surge of anger on her behalf. But what struck me even harder was the silence from the two people at the head of the table. My parents sat there, my mother staring at her plate, my father studying his hands. Neither of them said a word. Neither of them defended me. Neither of them suggested that maybe, just maybe, a 13-year-old boy smashing a $500 gift was the real problem here. They were afraid. Afraid to contradict Derek and Linda. Afraid to rock the boat. Afraid of conflict. And in that moment, I realized I was completely alone. When was the last time Austin thanked me for anything? I asked Derek. Derek's jaw tightened. "He's a kid, Sammy. He doesn't need to perform gratitude for you." Linda nodded in agreement. "We're raising him to have self-respect, not to grovel to people for gifts." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "I've paid your mortgage for 3 years, Derek. I invested $60,000 in your business. I've given Austin gifts for every birthday, every Christmas, every milestone." Derek interrupted, his voice rising. "And we appreciate it, but that doesn't give you the right to disrespect him by getting him the wrong version of something." "How did I disrespect him?" I asked. Austin, still scrolling through his phone, muttered loud enough for everyone to hear, "You're cheap, Uncle Sammy. Everyone knows the Pro is way better. You just didn't want to spend the extra money." Linda didn't correct him. Derek didn't tell him that was inappropriate. My parents continued their silent study of the table in front of them. Derek checked his phone timer. 2 minutes, Sammy." I took a slow breath. "Do you genuinely believe that Austin should have smashed that PlayStation?" Derek hesitated. For just a second, I saw doubt flicker across his face. Then it hardened again. He was disappointed. He reacted emotionally. He's 13 years old. Kids make mistakes. "And do you genuinely believe that I owe him an apology?" I pressed. Derek's voice was firm. "Yes, you embarrassed him in front of the whole family by getting the wrong gift. You made him feel like you don't care enough to pay attention to what he actually wants." The timer showed 1 minute remaining. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. My hands were steady, my mind suddenly crystal clear. I navigated to my transaction history and turned the screen toward Derek. "Before I respond," I said calmly, "I want to make sure we're clear on the facts." Derek looked at the screen. His face went pale. There, in neat rows, were 36 transactions, $2,400, every month, for 3 years. Total, $86,400. Derek's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He stammered. What? What are you doing? Just making sure we're on the same page about the situation, I said. My voice was quiet, but every person in that room heard me clearly. The timer went off. Derek's phone alarm beeped shrilly in the silence. He fumbled to turn it off, his eyes still fixed on my banking app screen. The color had drained from his face. Time's up, he finally managed to say. Last chance, Sammy. I looked around the room. My mother had her hand pressed to her mouth. My father was staring at me now, but his expression was unreadable. Monica looked frightened, like she knew something terrible was about to happen. Linda had straightened in her chair, her coffee cup suspended halfway to her lips. Even Austin had looked up from his phone, finally sensing that something significant was unfolding. I stood up slowly, slipping my phone back into my pocket. My voice came out steady and calm, which surprised even me. I'm not apologizing. The room exploded. Derek's face flushed crimson. Then you need to leave my house. Right now. Your house? I repeated. Let's talk about that, Derek. I pulled my phone back out and opened my files. The mortgage on this house is in your name, but I've been making every single payment through automatic bank transfer. 36 months. Never missed one. Never late. Derek found his voice again. You offered to help. I didn't force you to do anything. You're absolutely right, I agreed. I offered to help, and now I'm unoffering. I tapped my screen several times, navigating through menus. Derek watched, his expression shifting from anger to confusion to dawning horror. What are you doing? He asked. Canceling the recurring payment, I said simply. I hit the final confirmation button. There. Done. Good luck making next month's payment on your own. Derek's eyes went wide. You can't do that. I just did, I replied. Linda shot to her feet, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Her voice came out shrill and panicked. You can't abandon family like this. What kind of person are you? I turned to look at her directly. I'm not abandoning anyone, Linda. I'm simply stopping the subsidies. There's a difference. Derek was breathing hard, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. But the business, we're partners. You can't just walk away from a business partnership. You're right again, I said. I had come prepared for this, some part of me knowing this confrontation was inevitable. I reached into the bag I'd brought with me and pulled out a folder. Inside were copies of our partnership agreement. I had reviewed these documents with my attorney 2 weeks ago, right after Austin's birthday party. Even then, I think I knew this was coming. I slid the papers across the table toward Derek. We are partners, and our partnership agreement includes a buyback clause. Either partner can exit with 30 days' notice. I'm exercising that clause right now. Derek grabbed the papers with shaking hands. His eyes scanned the document, landing on the valuation formula we'd agreed to 3 years ago. His face went from red to white. This says, his voice cracked. This says, I have to buy out your 40% at current market valuation. That's correct, I confirmed. Linda snatched the papers from Derek's hands. She read quickly, her lips moving. Then she looked up at me, genuine fear in her eyes now. This is $98,000. We don't have $98,000. Then I guess we'll have to dissolve the partnership and liquidate the business assets, I said. My tone was matter-of-fact, like we were discussing the weather. Derek's voice rose to a shout. You're destroying us over a stupid PlayStation? The words hung in the air. Even Austin flinched. I met Derek's eyes. No, Derek. I'm stopping my financial support because you demanded that I apologize to a child who destroyed a $500 gift and feels absolutely no remorse. Because you've spent 3 years taking my money while teaching your son that he's entitled to whatever he wants without gratitude or consequences. Because you just threatened to throw me out of your house. A house you can only afford because I've been paying for it. My voice remained eerily calm throughout this speech, which seemed to unnerve Derek more than if I had shouted. Linda was reading through the partnership papers again, searching desperately for a loophole. This can't be legal. You can't just destroy someone's livelihood because of a family argument. The agreement is completely legal, I said. We both signed it. We both had attorneys review it. And this isn't about a family argument. This is about respect, boundaries, and the fact that I've been enabling toxic behavior for 3 years. Austin finally spoke up from the couch, his voice smaller than usual. "Dad?" Derek ignored him, his attention fixed on me. He was clearly trying to think, trying to find an angle. "Sammy, come on. Let's talk about this like adults. Don't be rash." "I have been anything but rash," I replied. "I've been patient for 3 years. I've watched you take and take while never once saying thank you. I've watched you raise your son to believe the world owes him everything. I've watched my generosity get twisted into obligation, and I've stayed quiet because I thought that's what family did. But I was wrong." Monica made a small sound, almost like a sob. When I glanced at her, she was crying silently, tears running down her cheeks, but she was also nodding. My mother finally found her voice. "Sammy, honey." She reached across the table toward me. "Maybe you're overreacting. It's just money. Family is more important than money." I felt like someone had driven a knife into my chest. My own mother, taking Derek's side. Reducing 3 years of financial support, $86,000 in mortgage payments, $60,000 in business investment, to just money. 3 years ago, Derek lost his job. He had been working as a marketing director for a mid-sized firm in Denver when they went through massive corporate layoffs. Derek was 42 at the time, with a wife, a 10-year-old son, and a mortgage payment of $2,400 every month. When he called me that night, his voice shaking, I didn't hesitate. I looked at both of them, really looked at them, and I saw what I'd been blind to for years. They were afraid of Derek and Linda, afraid of conflict, afraid of losing access to their grandson. So they enabled the behavior, sacrificed me to keep the peace, and told themselves it was about family unity. "Just money," I repeated softly. "Right." I picked up my bag and walked toward the door. Behind me I heard Derek's voice, still trying to maintain control. "Where are you going? We're not done talking about this." I stopped at the door and turned back. "Actually, we are. You'll receive formal notice of partnership dissolution from my attorney within 48 hours. You have 30 days to either buy me out or agree to liquidation. If you do neither, I'll force a sale of all business assets." "You can't do this," Linda shrieked. "Watch me," I said, and I walked out. I sat in my car in Derek's driveway for a full minute before starting the engine. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I expected to feel anger, or sadness, or regret. Instead, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: relief. I drove home in silence, not even turning on the radio. The 20-minute drive gave me time to think, to process what had just happened. By the time I pulled into my garage, my phone was already buzzing with notifications. Derek had sent 6 text messages in rapid succession. "You're making a huge mistake. Come back here and we can talk this through like adults. You're going to regret this. I can't believe you're doing this to your own family. Mom and Dad are devastated." "Fine. Be that way. See if I care." My father nodded in agreement. "Your mother's right, son. You're being too harsh. Derek made a mistake, but you don't throw away family over a mistake." 10 minutes later, Linda started texting. Long paragraphs about how I was ruining Austin's childhood, traumatizing him, teaching him that family couldn't be trusted. She said I was being cruel and vindictive. She said Austin was crying in his room, devastated that his uncle hated him. I blocked her number. Then my phone rang. My mother. I stared at the screen until it went to voicemail. She left a message asking me to reconsider, saying that Derek was under a lot of stress, that I was the older brother and should be more understanding, that family was supposed to forgive. I deleted the message without listening to all of it. The only text that mattered came from Monica. "I'm proud of you. Someone needed to say it." I texted back, "Thank you." She responded immediately. "He's been doing this to all of us for years. You just had the courage to stop it." That night, I barely slept. Not because I felt guilty, but because I kept replaying the scene, wondering if I could have handled it differently. But every time I reached the moment where Derek demanded I apologize to Austin, I knew I had made the right choice. The harassment continued throughout the following week. Derek called repeatedly, his messages alternating between anger and manipulation. One minute he was threatening to take legal action. The next, he was trying the friendly brother routine. Come on, bro. We've been through too much together. Family is forever. We can work this out. I responded only once, with a brief email. All future communication should go through my attorney. Here's his contact information. I had already consulted with Richard Torres, the lawyer who had helped me set up my real estate business. Richard reviewed the partnership agreement and confirmed what I already knew. My position was rock solid. Derek had 30 days to buy out my 40% at current market valuation, or we would dissolve the partnership and liquidate all business assets. What's the current valuation? Richard asked. We went through Derek's business finances. The company was worth approximately $245,000 based on revenue, client contracts, and physical assets. 40% of that was $98,000. Can he pay that? Richard asked. No, I said. Not without taking a massive loan, and I doubt any bank would approve him with his current debt-to-income ratio. Richard nodded. Then we're likely looking at liquidation. I'll draw up the formal notice. Meanwhile, Derek was discovering his new financial reality. The first of the month came. For the first time in 3 years, the automatic mortgage payment didn't process. Derek tried to pay it himself and realized his business income, after covering operating costs and his family's living expenses, didn't leave enough for the $2,400 mortgage. He called me, and I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won out. Sammy. His voice was tight, controlled. I need you to make one more mortgage payment. Just one more. Give me time to reorganize my finances. No, I said simply. What about Austin? Derek's voice rose. You'd really let a kid lose his home? You have a business that generates income, Derek. You have assets. Adjust your spending. Downsize if you need to. Learn to live within your actual means. You're unbelievable, he spat. You know what? I'm glad this happened. Now I know what kind of person you really are. He hung up before I could respond. Not that I had anything to say. Linda took to social media. She didn't name me directly, but her posts were transparent enough that anyone who knew our family would understand. It's amazing how quickly people show their true colors when you need them most. Some people's love is conditional on you doing exactly what they want. Toxic family members are worse than strangers because you never expect the knife in the back. Friends and extended family started reaching out, asking what had happened. I gave everyone the same response. It's a private family matter. I'd prefer not to discuss it. I refused to engage in public drama or defend myself. Anyone who really knew me would understand. Anyone who believed Linda's vague booking without asking for my side wasn't someone whose opinion mattered anyway. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, I got a call from Richard Torres. His voice was grim. We have a problem. My stomach dropped. What kind of problem? Derek has been contacting some of your business associates and clients. He's telling them that you're mentally unstable and trying to sabotage his company. 2 of his clients have pulled their contracts, and he's implying that it's because you're interfering with his business operations. I sat down heavily. Is he seriously trying to damage my reputation? It appears so, Richard confirmed. I've documented 3 separate instances where he's made defamatory statements about your mental health and professional conduct. We have witnesses willing to provide statements. What are my options? I asked. We send him a cease and desist immediately. If he continues, we file a defamation lawsuit. We have a strong case based on what I've already gathered. Do it, I said. Send the letter today. Richard's cease and desist letter apparently put the fear of God into Derek, because the public attacks stopped immediately. But he doubled down on private pressure. He convinced our parents to call me together, a coordinated intervention. My father's voice was stern when I finally answered. Sammy, your brother made mistakes, but you're tearing this family apart. Is that really what you want? Did you ask Derek if destroying his family over a PlayStation was what he wanted? I countered. Silence. Did anyone ever ask Derek to apologize to me? I pressed. Did anyone ever consider that maybe I was hurt? That maybe I deserved respect for 3 years of financial support? More silence. Then my father said something that broke my heart. You're the successful one, Sammy. You're strong. You can handle it. Derek needs help. He's struggling. And I helped him for 3 years, I said quietly. But helping someone doesn't mean letting them abuse you. It doesn't mean sacrificing yourself so they never have to face consequences. You're being selfish, my father said. I closed my eyes. If expecting basic respect and gratitude is selfish, then I guess I am. I'm done being the family ATM, Dad. I'm done being taken for granted. I hung up. The 30-day deadline approached. Derek still hadn't produced the buyout money. Richard filed a motion for forced liquidation of partnership assets, which included the client list, ongoing contracts, business bank accounts, and physical property. Derek panicked. He called Richard directly, trying to negotiate. I can give Sammy $20,000 right now. We call it even and move on. Richard relayed the message to me. I laughed bitterly. Tell him $98,000 or we proceed with liquidation. Derek tried one more desperate move. On a Saturday afternoon, 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, my doorbell rang. I looked through the security camera and saw Derek standing on my porch. With Austin. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. Derek looked haggard. He'd lost weight, and there were dark circles under his eyes. Austin stood slightly behind him, looking uncomfortable and avoiding my gaze. Can we talk? Derek asked. You can say what you need to say from there, I replied. Derek took a breath. Then he put his hand on Austin's shoulder and pushed him forward slightly. Austin has something to say to you. The kid looked miserable. He'd clearly been coached. He mumbled, Uncle Sammy, I'm sorry I broke the PlayStation. Can we go back to normal? The apology was hollow, scripted, empty of genuine remorse. Derek added quickly, See? He apologized. He understands what he did wrong. Now we can move past this and get back to being a family. You can stop this liquidation thing and we can all move forward. I looked at Austin, and I felt something unexpected. Not sympathy, not the urge to cave and make everything okay. I felt disgust. Derek was using his son as a bargaining chip. He had dragged this 13-year-old boy to my house to manipulate me emotionally, to exploit whatever uncle-nephew bond might remain. Austin was a prop in Derek's desperate attempt to avoid consequences. No, I said simply. Derek's face reddened. What do you mean, no? He apologized. He said words you told him to say. I replied. That's not an apology. That's a performance. And I'm not interested in performances anymore. After everything I've done for you, Derek exploded. After all the times I was there for you growing up? After I protected you when we were kids? This is how you repay me? I stared at him. What exactly have you done for me, Derek? He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. Tell me, I pressed. In the last 3 years, what have you done for me besides take my money? He couldn't answer. His face cycled through emotions, anger, frustration, desperation. Finally, he shouted, I'm your brother. That should be enough. I stepped back and closed my door in his face. Through the window, I watched them walk back to Derek's car. Austin looked back once, and our eyes met. Then they were gone. The business liquidation moved forward. Richard hired an independent valuator to assess Derek's company, and the process was clinical and thorough. Assets were cataloged, client contracts were reviewed, revenue streams were analyzed. The final valuation came back at $162,000, slightly lower than our initial estimate. Market conditions had shifted, and 2 of Derek's major clients had already terminated their contracts because of the instability. 40% of $162,000 was $64,800. Derek had 30 days to pay, or agree to sell everything. He couldn't pay. His business bank account held $23,000 in operating capital, and he'd already leveraged everything he could. He tried to get a loan but was rejected by 3 different banks. His debt-to-income ratio was too high, especially with the mortgage hanging over his head. Richard sent the final liquidation notice. Derek had 1 week to remove his personal items from the office space. After that, everything else would be sold to satisfy the partnership dissolution. The 30-day deadline approached. Derek still hadn't produced the buyout money. Richard filed a motion for forced liquidation of partnership assets, which included the client list, ongoing contracts, business bank accounts, and physical property. The business assets sold at auction. The client list went to a competitor for $18,000. The office equipment brought in another $9,000. Ongoing contracts were transferred for $27,000. After legal fees and administrative costs, the total came to $64,800. I stepped back and closed my door in his face. But the mortgage situation was worse. By the time the liquidation completed, Derek was 70 days late on his mortgage payment. The bank had sent multiple late payment notices, each one more threatening than the last. Derek tried to refinance, hoping to lower his monthly payment to something manageable, but no bank would touch him. He was self-employed with unstable income, high debt, and now a history of late payments. The foreclosure notice arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Monica called to tell me. She was crying. "They're losing the house," she said. "Derek just told Mom and Dad. They have 90 days to either catch up on payments or vacate." I felt a complex mix of emotions. Satisfaction that consequences were finally materializing. Guilt that it had come to this. Sadness for the family we used to be. "How's Derek handling it?" I asked. "He's destroyed," Monica said. "Linda's hysterical. They're fighting constantly, blaming each other, blaming you. Mom tried to lend them money, but Dad stopped her. He said they needed to learn to stand on their own." That surprised me. "Dad said that?" "I think he finally sees it," Monica said quietly. What Derek became. What they enabled. Derek and Linda listed the house for sale. In their neighborhood, homes were selling quickly, and they needed a fast sale to avoid foreclosure on their credit record. They priced it aggressively and had an offer within 2 weeks. After paying off the mortgage, they cleared $37,000. It wasn't nothing, but it wasn't enough to buy another house. They moved into a rental property on the south side of town, a 3-bedroom apartment, about half the size of their house. Rent was $1,600 a month, which was manageable, but the downgrade was stark. Austin had to change schools, leave his friends, adjust to a new neighborhood. For the first time in his life, he was facing real consequences. I heard about all of this through Monica. I didn't reach out to Derek, and he didn't contact me. We existed in a strange, painful silence. Then, about 6 weeks after they'd moved, something unexpected happened. I was at the grocery store on a Saturday morning, picking up coffee and eggs, when I turned the corner of an aisle and nearly ran into Austin. He was alone, pushing a cart with basic groceries. He looked different. Thinner, maybe. More subdued. He saw me and froze. I received a check. Derek's consulting business was effectively dead. "Uncle Sammy." "Austin," I replied neutrally. He glanced around, checking that we were alone. Then he looked at me with an expression I'd never seen on his face before. Shame. "I'm really sorry," he said. "Not because my dad made me say it, because I was a total jerk." I studied him carefully. This didn't feel rehearsed. His voice shook slightly, and he couldn't quite meet my eyes. "What changed?" I asked. Austin's jaw trembled. "Everything. We lost the house. I had to leave my school. My parents fight about money every single night. My dad barely talks anymore. My mom cries when she thinks I can't hear." He finally looked up at me, and his eyes were red-rimmed. I didn't understand that money was real. I thought it just appeared whenever people needed it. I didn't know my dad was only able to give me stuff because you were paying for everything. A tear ran down his cheek, and he wiped it away angrily. "My dad told me you were the bad guy, that you abandoned us when we needed you. But I'm not stupid. I know what I did. I destroyed something you spent $500 on because it wasn't exactly what I wanted, and I didn't even say thank you for the original gift." He took a shaky breath. Derek fought it at first, trying to file injunctions and procedural delays. But our original partnership agreement was airtight. He'd signed it willingly, with legal representation. There was no escape clause. I felt something crack in the armor I'd built around my heart. This kid, standing in a grocery store, finally understanding the weight of his actions. "You're 13, Austin," I said quietly. "You're still learning. What matters is what you do next." He nodded, wiping his face again. "I'm trying to be better. I got a job doing yard work for neighbors, $10 an hour. I'm saving up to pay you back for the PlayStation." You don't have to do that, I said. Yeah, I do, he insisted. It's going to take me a long time, but I need to. For me, not just for you. We stood there in the cereal aisle, this broken bridge between us still standing somehow. I should go, Austin said. My mom's waiting in the car. But I'm glad I ran into you. I've been wanting to say this for weeks. Take care of yourself, Austin, I said. He nodded and walked away, pushing his cart toward the checkout. I stood there for several minutes after he left, feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope, not for reconciliation necessarily, but for growth, for change. For the possibility that pain could teach rather than just destroy. My phone rang. Monica, you need to know something, she said without preamble. Mom had a health scare. She's okay, but she went to the ER last night with chest pains. My stomach dropped. What happened? Stress-induced cardiac symptoms. Not a heart attack, but the doctor said it was a warning. All this family drama is literally making her sick. I closed my eyes. How is she now? Resting at home. But Sammy, she's asking for a family meeting. She wants everyone together. She says we need to talk, really talk, before this destroys us all. I was quiet for a long moment. Stress-induced cardiac symptoms. Not a heart attack, but the doctor said it was a warning. All this family drama is literally making her sick. He already agreed. So did Dad and Linda. They're scared, Sammy. Mom's health scare shook everyone up. I took a deep breath. Okay, when and where? Tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock. There's a diner on Maple Street, neutral territory. Will you come? I thought about Austin in the grocery store, about my mother in the hospital, about 3 years of giving and taking and never really communicating. Yeah, I said. I'll be there. I arrived at the diner 15 minutes early. It was a small place, family-owned, with red vinyl booths and black and white checkered floors. I chose a large booth in the back corner and ordered coffee I didn't drink. Monica arrived next, sliding into the booth beside me. She squeezed my hand under the table. Thank you for coming, she whispered. How's Mom really doing? I asked. Scared, Monica admitted. The doctor told her she needs to reduce stress or she's at risk for a real cardiac event. Dad's been a mess. I think it finally hit him that this family might actually break apart permanently. My parents arrived together, my father's hand protectively on my mother's elbow. She looked frailer than I remembered, older somehow. When she saw me, tears filled her eyes. Sammy, she breathed. I stood and hugged her carefully. She felt small in my arms. I'm glad you're okay, Mom, I said sincerely. I'm sorry, she whispered into my shoulder. I'm so sorry. We sat down, my parents across from Monica and me. The waitress came by and everyone ordered coffee. We made awkward small talk about the weather, the diner's renovations, anything but the elephant in the room. Then Derek and Linda arrived. Derek looked worse than when he'd shown up at my house with Austin. His clothes hung looser, and his hair was graying at the temples. Linda wore no makeup, which I'd never seen before. Her usual polished appearance was gone, replaced by exhaustion. They slid into the booth next to my parents. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The silence was heavy, loaded with months of pain. Finally, Derek cleared his throat. When he spoke, his voice was hoarse. I need to say something first. We all looked at him. Derek's hands were shaking slightly as he placed them flat on the table. I took you for granted, Sammy. For 3 years, I expected you to always be there, to always bail me out, to always make things easier. And I never once said thank you. Not really. His voice cracked. I told myself I deserved your help because we're brothers, because family is supposed to take care of each other. But it was a one-way street, and I never saw it until everything collapsed. Linda spoke next, her voice thick with emotion. We raised Austin wrong. We thought we were giving him confidence and independence, but we were really just teaching him that he didn't have to respect anyone or be grateful for anything. She wiped her eyes. Watching him struggle now, seeing him work his first job and understand what money actually means, I realized we did him a terrible disservice. We were so afraid of crushing his spirit that we never taught him basic human decency. My mother reached across the table toward me, her hand trembling. Sammy, honey, I was a coward. I was so afraid of conflict, so afraid of losing my relationship with Derek and Austin, that I stayed silent when I should have spoken up. I chose the appearance of peace over actually protecting you. My father's voice was gruff with emotion. I assumed you were strong enough to handle it. You always seemed so capable, so successful. I didn't realize that everyone needs defending sometimes, even the strong ones, especially the strong ones. He met my eyes. I told myself it wasn't my place to interfere, that you boys were adults who could work it out yourselves, but that was wrong. A father should stand up for all his children, not pick sides based on who seems to need it more. Monica was crying silently beside me, her shoulders shaking. 3 years ago, Derek lost his job. He had been working as a marketing director for a mid-sized firm in Denver when they went through massive corporate layoffs. Derek was 42 at the time, with a wife, a 10-year-old son, and a mortgage payment of $2,400 every month. When he called me that night, his voice shaking, I didn't hesitate. I didn't cut you off to punish you, Derek. I cut you off because I had to. Because continuing the way we were was destroying me. Every time I paid your mortgage, every time Austin was rude and you made excuses, every time Linda explained away his behavior, I lost a little more respect for myself. I looked around the table. I loved helping you. I wanted to help you. But love without boundaries becomes enabling. And enabling toxic behavior isn't love at all. It's cowardice dressed up as kindness. Derek nodded, tears streaming down his face. I know that now. I know it because I'm living the consequences. We're in a small apartment. Linda's working retail for the first time in her life. Austin is mowing lawns to save money. And you know what? We're better for it. He looked at Linda, who nodded in agreement. We fight about money now, sure, Derek continued. But we're also talking, really talking, about priorities, about values, about what kind of family we want to be. Linda added, Austin's different. He helps with chores without being asked. He says please and thank you. Last week he made dinner for the family because Derek and I were both exhausted from work. The kid who smashed a PlayStation is learning to be a decent human being. Because he had to, I said quietly. Because you finally let him experience consequences. Yes, Linda agreed, her voice breaking. And I hate that it took losing our house for me to see it. I hate that we hurt you. I hate that we taught our son to be entitled and cruel. But we're trying to fix it now. We're really trying. My mother spoke again. Can we start over? Not pretend the past didn't happen, but actually start rebuilding from here, differently this time? I considered her words carefully. Around me sat my broken family. Derek, humbled and grieving his old life. Linda, stripped of her defenses and facing hard truths. My parents, finally understanding that peacekeeping isn't the same as peacemaking. Monica, who had been fighting her own battle with family expectations. I'm willing to rebuild, I said slowly. But it has to be different. It has to be equal, mutual respect, not me giving and you taking. Derek nodded eagerly. Yes, absolutely. I don't want your money, Sammy. I don't want you to fix things for me. I just want my brother back. I want to earn your respect again. That's going to take time, I said. I know, Derek replied. I'm willing to put in the time. We talked for 2 more hours. Really talked, in a way we never had before, about boundaries and expectations, about how families should function, about accountability and forgiveness and the difference between the two. When we finally left the diner, nothing was magically fixed, but something had shifted. A door had opened, just slightly. Derek asked if we could grab coffee sometime, just the 2 of us. I said maybe in a few weeks. He accepted that without argument. Linda apologized directly to me for the first time, without qualifications or explanations. Just, I'm sorry for how I treated you. My parents hugged me tightly, and my father whispered, I'm proud of how you stood up for yourself, son, even if it took me too long to say it. Monica walked me to my car. Are you okay? She asked. I think so, I said. Are you? She smiled, a real smile for the first time in months. Yeah, I think I am. The weeks following the diner meeting were strange and tentative. Derek and I started texting occasionally. Nothing deep, just small exchanges. He'd send me a picture of a sunset. I'd respond with a thumbs up. Baby steps. Linda sent me a handwritten letter apologizing for her social media posts and her behavior. She included photos of Austin at his yard work job, mowing an elderly neighbor's lawn. The kid looked sunburned and tired, but genuinely happy. My parents invited me to Sunday dinner. Just them and Monica, no pressure. We ate my mother's pot roast and talked about safe topics. But it felt warmer than it had in years. Monica and I grew closer during this time. She confessed that she'd been planning her own exit from family obligations before everything exploded. Derek wasn't the only one taking advantage, she told me over coffee one afternoon. Mom and Dad always expected me to babysit Austin for free, to help Linda with errands, to drop everything whenever the family needed something. It was always, Monica can do it, she has time. Like my life didn't matter. Have you talked to them about it? I asked. I did, actually, she said with a small smile. After your whole showdown, I realized I needed to set boundaries too. I told them I'd be happy to help sometimes, but I needed advance notice and respect for my schedule. And you know what? They actually listened. Good for you, I said, meaning it. 6 weeks after the family meeting, Derek texted me asking if we could meet for coffee. Just him and me. I agreed, suggesting a neutral coffee shop downtown. We met on a Saturday morning. Derek arrived first and had already ordered my usual, a black coffee with 1 sugar. That small gesture, remembering my coffee preference, felt significant. We sat in uncomfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Derek pulled out a folder. I wanted to show you something, he said. Inside was a payment plan. Derek had restructured his entire financial life. He'd taken on freelance marketing work, side projects that brought in extra income. Linda had gotten promoted to shift supervisor at Target. They'd created a strict budget, and at the bottom of the spreadsheet was a line item, repayment to Sammy. I can't pay you back all at once, Derek said, but I can pay you $500 a month. It'll take years, but I'm going to do it. The mortgage payments, the business investment, all of it. I stared at the numbers. Derek, I don't need the money. I know, he said, but I need to pay it back. For me. So I can look at myself in the mirror and know I'm not that person anymore. The person who takes and never gives back. I felt something shift in my chest. This wasn't manipulation. This was genuine accountability. Okay, I said quietly. If it's important to you, I'll accept it. Derek's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. We talked for another hour. He told me about Austin's transformation, how the kid was saving every penny from his lawn work. Half was for paying me back for the PlayStation, half was going into a savings account for college. He asks about you sometimes, Derek said. He wants to see you, but he's afraid you hate him. I don't hate him, I said. I never did. Could you maybe, I don't know, text him? Just so he knows you're not completely done with him? I thought about the kid in the grocery store, tears on his face, talking about learning what things cost. Yeah, I said. I can do that. That evening, I texted Austin from the number I still had saved in my phone. Hey Austin, your dad told me about your lawn business. I'm proud of you for working hard and learning responsibility. You're going to be okay, kid. When we finally left the diner, nothing was magically fixed. But something had shifted. A door had opened, just slightly. Uncle Sammy, thank you. I'm really trying to be better. I saved $247 so far. $123.50 is for you, and $123.50 is for college. Can I see you sometime? I smiled at my phone. Maybe for ice cream next week? He responded within 2 minutes. Over the next few months, things slowly normalized into a new pattern. Derek and I met for coffee every other week. We talked about business, life, sports. We didn't always mention the past, but it was there, a foundation we were building on rather than ignoring. Linda and I had a long conversation where she explained her parenting philosophy and admitted where it had gone wrong. She'd been so focused on protecting Austin's self-esteem that she'd forgotten to build his character. Self-esteem without competence or kindness is just narcissism, she said sadly. I created a monster and called it parenting. Austin and I had our ice cream date. He showed me his savings notebook where he tracked every dollar he earned and every expense. The kid who'd smashed a PlayStation was learning financial literacy at 13. I'm going to pay you back the full $500, he told me seriously. And then I'm going to save enough to buy myself a PlayStation. Not the Pro, just the regular one. Because that's good enough. I'm proud of you, I told him. His face lit up like I'd given him the world. Then came the call that changed everything again. It was a Tuesday evening in March, almost 4 months after the Thanksgiving incident. Monica called me, her voice panicked. Sammy, Mom's in the hospital again. This time it's serious. You need to come now. My mother had suffered a mild stroke. Not life-threatening, the doctors assured us, but a significant warning sign. She'd need months of recovery, physical therapy, lifestyle changes. The entire family gathered at the hospital. Derek and Linda, Monica, my father, and me. We sat in the waiting room, united in fear and worry. When we were finally allowed to see her, my mother looked small and fragile in the hospital bed. But when she saw all of us together, her face broke into a weak smile. My babies, she whispered. All here. Where else would we be, Mom? Derek said, his voice thick. Over the next few days, we took turns staying with her. Derek and I worked out a rotation schedule without arguing. Linda brought home-cooked meals for everyone. Monica coordinated with doctors and handled paperwork. We functioned as a team. One evening, I was alone with my mother in her room. She was awake, staring at the ceiling. I'm scared, Sammy, she admitted. Of what? I asked gently. That I wasted so much time. That I almost let my family destroy itself because I was too afraid of confrontation. I took her hand. You didn't waste it, Mom. We're here now. We're together. That's what matters. She squeezed my hand weakly. You saved us, you know. When you walked out that day, you forced all of us to look at what we'd become. I didn't save anyone, I said. I just stopped enabling dysfunction. Same thing, she whispered. A week later, my mother was released from the hospital with strict orders to reduce stress, eat healthier, and attend regular physical therapy. My father was determined to follow every instruction to the letter. The family gathered at my parents' house for a welcome home dinner. It was the first time we'd all been together since Thanksgiving, and the contrast was striking. Derek helped cook. Linda set the table. Austin offered to help with dishes before anyone asked. Monica and I made a playlist of my mother's favorite music. During dinner, my father stood and cleared his throat. I want to say something, he announced. These past few months have been the hardest our family has ever faced. We almost lost each other. We almost lost your mother. His voice cracked. But we're still here. We're still fighting. And we're better than we were. Not perfect, but better. He raised his glass of water. To Sammy, for having the courage to say enough. To Derek, for having the humility to listen. To Linda, for being willing to change. To Monica, for being our rock. And to my bride of 43 years, for giving us the scare we needed to wake up. We all raised our glasses. To family, my father said. The real kind. Built on respect, not obligation. To family, we echoed. The months following my mother's stroke brought changes I never expected. Derek's business, rebuilt from the ground up without my investment, was smaller but healthier. He'd learned to be strategic, to value quality clients over quantity. He was making it work, entirely on his own. True to his word, the first $500 payment appeared in my account at the start of April, then another in May, and June. Derek never missed a payment, and he never asked for extensions. When I tried to tell him he'd paid back enough, he refused to hear it. We agreed on a number, he said firmly. I'm going to reach it. Let me have this, Sammy. So I let him have it. Linda had discovered she actually enjoyed working. The structure, the purpose, the independence of earning her own money. She'd been promoted twice and was managing an entire department. She and Derek had honest conversations about money now, budgeting together, planning together. Austin was thriving in ways that surprised everyone. His yard work business had expanded to 8 regular clients. He'd saved over $1,000, and in May, he did something that made me cry. He showed up at my house on a Saturday morning with a box wrapped in plain brown paper. "I wanted to give you this in person," he said. Inside was a PlayStation 5, the regular edition, not the Pro. "I saved up and bought this myself," Austin explained. "And I wanted to give it to you, as a replacement for the one I destroyed, and as a thank you for not giving up on me." I was speechless. "I don't need it, Uncle Sammy. I'm saving for college now. But I needed to do this, to close that circle, you know?" I hugged him tightly. "I'm so incredibly proud of you, Austin. I'm trying to be someone you can be proud of," he said into my shoulder. "You already are," I told him. We set up the PlayStation in my living room and played video games together for 3 hours, just enjoying each other's company. The kid who'd been a nightmare 8 months ago had become someone I genuinely enjoyed spending time with. My mother's recovery was slow but steady. Physical therapy helped her regain strength, and the lifestyle changes seemed to be working. More importantly, the family stress that had contributed to her health problems was gone. We'd established new patterns: Sunday dinners at my parents' house, rotating cooking responsibilities, monthly family meetings where we actually talked about issues instead of letting them fester, boundaries that everyone respected. Monica started dating someone, a kind woman she'd met at work. When she brought Sarah to Sunday dinner for the first time, the family welcomed her warmly. No judgment, no weirdness, just acceptance. Derek and I rebuilt our relationship incrementally. We'd never be exactly what we were before, but we were building something better, something based on mutual respect rather than unspoken obligation. One evening in late summer, almost 9 months after the PlayStation incident, Derek and I sat on my back porch drinking beer and watching the sunset. "Can I ask you something?" Derek said. "Sure. Do you regret it? Walking out that day?" I thought about it carefully. "No, I regret that it had to happen, but I don't regret doing it." Derek nodded. "I'm glad you did it. I really am. I hate what I put you through, but I love who it forced me to become." He took a sip of his beer. "I was a terrible brother, a terrible father, a terrible husband. I was entitled and selfish and blind to how my actions affected people. Losing everything was the best thing that ever happened to me." "That's a hard way to learn," I said. "The important lessons usually are," Derek replied. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. "You know what the weirdest part is?" Derek said. "I'm happier now than I was when you were paying for everything. We have less money, a smaller place, fewer things, but we're actually happy. Austin's a good kid. Linda and I are partners again instead of just cohabitating. I'm proud of the work I do because I built it myself." He looked at me. "You gave me that. By taking away the safety net, you forced me to learn how to fly. You did the work, Derek. I just stopped preventing the natural consequences." "Same thing," he said, echoing our mother's words from months ago. In September, we all gathered for Austin's 14th birthday. The party was small, held at Derek and Linda's apartment. There were homemade decorations and a cake Linda had baked herself. No expensive gifts, no elaborate entertainment. Austin seemed genuinely happy, surrounded by family who had learned to show love through presence rather than presents. When it was time for gifts, Austin opened mine first. It was a book about financial literacy for teenagers, and inside I'd written a check for $100 to deposit into his savings account. "This is perfect, Uncle Sammy," Austin said, flipping through the book. "Thank you." Then he did something that made the entire room go quiet. He stood up and hugged me. "Thank you for everything," he whispered. "For the tough love, for not letting me get away with being a brat, for still being here even after I was so awful to you." I hugged him back. "Your family, Austin. I'm always going to be here." At Christmas, Derek handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $6,000, 12 months of payments. "We're ahead of schedule," he said proudly. "I took on some extra projects. Linda's bonus came through. We wanted to make a larger payment." I tried to hand it back. "Derek, this is too much. Keep it for yourselves." "No," Linda said firmly. "This is important to us. Let us do this." I accepted the check. understanding that repayment was about Derek's healing, not my financial need. My parents announced they were renewing their vows for their 44th anniversary. They wanted the whole family there, a celebration of survival and renewal. The ceremony was simple, held in their backyard. My father's vows made everyone cry. I promised to speak up when silence is harmful. I promised to defend all my children equally. I promised to build peace through honesty, not avoidance. I promised to love you fiercely, but never fearfully. My mother's vows were equally powerful. I promised to be brave enough for hard conversations. I promised to value truth over comfort. I promised to protect what we've built through the fire we've survived. After the ceremony, Derek pulled me aside. "I have something to tell you," he said. "We're moving." My heart sank. "Moving where?" "Just across town," he said quickly. "We found a small house we can afford. 3 bedrooms, a yard for Austin. It's not fancy, but it's ours. We close next month." I felt pride swell in my chest. "Derek, that's amazing. We're doing it completely on our own," he said. "No help, no loans from family, just what we've saved and earned." "I'm so proud of you," I said honestly. "I learned from the best," Derek replied. "You showed me what real strength looks like, not bailing people out, not making things easy, but standing firm on your principles, even when it hurts." We stood there, 2 brothers who had nearly destroyed each other and somehow found a way back. "I love you, Sammy," Derek said. "I don't think I've said that in years, but I do, and I'm grateful every day that you didn't let me get away with using you." "I love you too," I said, "and I'm grateful you were willing to change." Now, looking back on everything that happened, I understand something fundamental about family and love. Real love isn't about always saying yes. It's not about sacrificing yourself to keep others comfortable. It's not about enabling bad behavior because you're afraid of conflict. Real love sometimes means saying no. It means holding boundaries even when people you care about are angry with you. It means allowing people to face consequences so they can learn and grow. It means valuing yourself enough to demand respect. I didn't destroy my family when I walked out of that Thanksgiving dinner. I saved it. I saved Derek from a life of dependency and entitlement. I saved Austin from becoming an adult who believed the world owed him everything. I saved Linda from the exhaustion of maintaining an unsustainable lifestyle. I saved my parents from the slow poison of enabling dysfunction. And I saved myself from the bitterness that comes from being perpetually taken for granted. The PlayStation 5 that Austin smashed on the floor wasn't just a gaming console. It was a symbol of everything that was broken in our family dynamic. The smashing was a breaking point, the moment when the dysfunction became too obvious to ignore. Sometimes things have to break completely before they can be rebuilt properly. Sometimes you have to tear down the rotted foundation before you can build something that will last. My brother and I are closer now than we've ever been. Not because I gave him money or fixed his problems, but because I respected him enough to let him fix himself. Austin is becoming a remarkable young man, not despite the hardship he's faced, but because of it. My parents are healthier, more honest, more present. And me? I learned that it's okay to value myself. It's okay to expect reciprocity in relationships. It's okay to walk away from people who treat you poorly, even if they're family, especially if they're family. Because family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about mutual respect, genuine care, and the willingness to grow together. It's about showing up for each other, not because you have to, but because you choose to. We chose each other again, after everything. But this time, we chose wisely, with boundaries, with respect, with the understanding that love without accountability is just codependency wearing a prettier name. That's the lesson I want to leave you with. Standing up for yourself doesn't make you selfish or cruel. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to stop protecting them from the consequences of their actions. Sometimes you have to let people fall so they can learn to stand on their own. And sometimes, the family you save by walking away is the same family you return to, rebuilt and better than before. Monica and I grew closer during this time. She confessed that she'd been planning her own exit from family obligations before everything exploded. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with someone you love? Have you ever walked away from a relationship because staying was destroying you? How did it turn out? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. If you want to hear more stories about real-life challenges and the courage it takes to overcome them, subscribe to this channel. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message about boundaries and self-respect, please share this video with them. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you find the strength to stand up for yourself when you need it most. Remember, you teach people how to treat you. Make sure the lesson you're teaching is one you can live with. Take care of yourselves out there, and remember that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the best outcomes.